I decided to take a break from going out into the wilderness and instead focus on capturing the beauty of a city park. On this rainy but beautiful end of fall day, I challenged myself to only shoot telephoto. This was going to be challenging since the clouds, late time in the afternoon, and trees made the surroundings quite dark. However, I actually really like photographing in the rain since the overcast skies create diffused light, ensuring that everything is lit more evenly. I can just focus on composition and technique to get the images I'm after. As I was walking through the woods looking for potential compositions, I kept a realization I made a couple years ago in my mind, and that is that all photography is essentially portrait photography. That might sound strange or controversial, but this idea accelerated my growth as a photographer and seriously changed how I approached the entire art. This idea helped me look for important details that would help me make an image I was proud of. The key to this way of thinking is not only looking for a subject that is interesting, but also that is in a context where it can be isolated from its surroundings. For example, is it standing away from a background, or does it have an interesting texture or shape compared to its surroundings? These ideas can be achieved by finding subjects that are illuminated by light too, but I didn't have that luxury on this rainy day. As I got deeper into the park, I found a ton of really great subjects. The fallen leaves created really vibrant foregrounds, and I ended up walking away with a few shots I really loved, which was totally unexpected, but goes to show that a successful image can be found even in a popular city park. Here is the first image I took. I love how this one ended up. I shot this at f4 at 1/5 of a second, and I think a few lessons can be taken from this photo. First, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to think about your photographs as if you are taking a picture of someone. There's a reason that portrait photographers use monochrome backgrounds or wide apertures to create bokeh. It's to isolate the subject and bring attention to it. If there's one lesson you take from this video, it's to find subjects where this isolation is possible. In this case, I was able to get a dark background and use a wide aperture to do this. Just as an example, I also took this photo of the same tree on a sunny day a couple days later, and for me, this image just doesn't work as well since the subject isn't as prominent due to the brighter background. Another example of an image that employs this technique successfully is this shot I got in Hood River, Oregon by the waterfront on a snowy day. The fog in the background obscures Washington across the Columbia River, creating a punchy, isolated subject. Now, jumping back to the first image again, I also wanted to point out the leaves on the ground make a great foreground element, which is not always necessary for a portrait, but gives the subject a context which helps create a scene or story. Another image to help explain this is this ancient bristlecone image I shot. The foreground and background do not dominate the scene, but help reinforce the story of the subject's isolation, making a more powerful photograph. The second image I got was this cool tree that is surrounded by some really cool spindly reddish trees. The light, while diffused, was much brighter in the background, which I thought would create a cool effect if I shot it at f2.8. Also, this wide aperture enabled me to keep my ISO at 64, which kept the noise to a minimum. The cool shapes and colors in the background help create a really interesting scene, but what's also important to realize is this image was shot on a really rainy day. You just wouldn't guess that, even from the raw image. It's important to be able to judge the light and how you can use it to improve your photography. The third and final tree shot I got was of this awesome tree surrounded in golden leaves. I also shot this photograph at f2.8, but mostly so I could create a nice bokeh for the foreground leaves, as well as to get a shutter speed that would reduce the motion blur from the falling rain. I really love the idea of shooting through foreground elements to enhance my imagery and create more visual textures. I want to explore double exposures in the near future too, and see what I can do. Lastly, I shot a couple images of leaves. Even though this type of photography appears simple, anyone that shoots this type of stuff can tell you they probably have a hard drive full of images they didn't share, all to get the one image that you do see on social media. This type of image is one of my favorite fall photography types to do, and I try to get a couple a year. The key is to shoot straight down if you're using a wide aperture, as too much bokeh can create a less powerful image in my opinion. I like when at least the subject leaf is in focus to really bring the photograph home. So that's all I shot. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.